So, this lie, which was spoken by Adonis Paul, is a lie, and it's one that has seriously held my life back. It's one of the bigger things that they say about me that makes me feel like I can never actually have a life because they're saying these things. I was not an active participant in a murder. Adonis Paul himself went over the court records for the murder, and it never once states that I did anything. It never says in the court documents that I committed that crime. And yet, his followers have repeated the lie that I was the one who committed it for 3 years now. In 2009, Kenneth McBride murdered Roberta Laws. I did not. He told me he would kill me if I did not go with him that night. And then he locked me in the truck and told me if I opened the door, the alarm would go off and he would kill me. When he took me into the house, she was dead. I did not have any participation in that. It took me 5 weeks to get away from him after that night because I was scared, and he was with me 24/7 for a lot of the time to make sure that I didn't escape him. He had me tied to a bed, and he tried to murder me once. He strangled me with a vacuum cleaner cord. I don't know why he stopped. I'll never know why he stopped when he strangled me that day. Y'all don't even get how many nights I've laid there and asked myself why he stopped, why he didn't kill me. Because I should have died. Y'all can go over those court records over and over again, and you're not going to find what you're saying about me. You're lying. I was never charged. I was never arrested. When I say that I could sue him for the emotional distress all of this has caused, comments like this are exactly what that emotional distress is, because you're trying to convince people I've murdered somebody and gotten away with it. That's not something little and minuscule. You're right. I was held captive by a man after he murdered a woman. I did not murder anybody. In the court paperwork, they're going to come up with and say that the defense attorney said that I triggered him. That if he was a gun, I pulled the trigger. I don't know how I triggered him. I didn't intend to trigger anybody. But Adonis Paul intentionally triggers the mentally ill every day. He's made a job out of it, a career. He earns thousands of dollars a week triggering mentally ill people, and then telling the world that this mentally ill person deserves to die for triggering another mentally ill person a decade ago. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't want anybody dead. I tried to leave him. Multiple times I tried to leave him. It was a long, complicated situation that you were not there for. You read the court documents and you still told lies that I was more involved than even the court documents said I was. Because fine, you want to say that I triggered him. That's possible. I have mental illnesses. I trigger people easily, and I don't even always realize that I've done it. Because I'll say things or do things. I hurt myself sometimes, and that triggers people. And I'm not trying to trigger other people by doing that. It's my existence. It's why I keep myself locked away from other people now, because I'm aware that my very existence is triggering to others. It's not intentional. But if we're going to stay with the gun metaphor and say that I'm the murderer because I pulled a trigger, who loaded the gun? Who bought it? Who cocked it? Who aimed it? There's a whole lot of things you have to do with a gun before you can kill somebody. You can pull a trigger on an unloaded gun all day long, and nothing will happen. You can pull a trigger on a gun that's not aimed at anybody, and you won't hit anybody. You can pull the trigger on a gun that's not cocked, and you're not going to do anything. When you're saying that I'm responsible because I just pulled the trigger, you're ignoring all of the steps that he went through to buy, load, cock, and aim the gun before I came along. There's a reason they didn't put me in jail. It's because I didn't commit the crime, and they did a full investigation, and they didn't find enough to put me in jail. So why is it that these internet detectives think they have enough to persecute me for the rest of my life? That I'm no longer allowed to have a life or be a person because I made a mistake 10 years ago and dated the wrong person. I didn't know who he was. He lied to me about everything. When I met him, his name was Brian. For the first 3 months we dated, I thought his name was Brian. I couldn't even look up his real identity to know that he was a sexual predator because I didn't know his name. I wouldn't find out his name until after she was dead. And it was only because I was rummaging and I found an ID. Y'all don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're doing. You're siding with my abusive family who wants to hurt me. And you don't understand.